I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story until the end and comment the city you're watching from. What I'm about to tell you will show you that sometimes the people closest to us are the ones we know the least. At 11:30 at night, I received a text message that would change my life forever. Mom, we've decided we need space. Please don't contact us anymore. I was standing in my kitchen, washing the tea mug I'd used trying to calm my insomnia. The phone vibrated on the counter. I picked it up with wet fingers and read those words. Once, twice, 3 times. As if reading them again would somehow change what they said. But here's what hit me hardest. I knew immediately those weren't my daughter Ava's words. I recognized that tone. That cold, polite cruelty. That was Marcus, my son-in-law, the man who'd entered our family 7 years ago with his perfect smile and promises that now felt like mockery. But Ava had agreed to it. She hadn't written the message, but she'd allowed it. She'd let her husband speak for her. She'd let him tell me they no longer wanted me in their lives. I stood there in my small kitchen expecting rage, expecting pain, expecting that familiar knot in my throat I'd felt so many times when something hurt me deeply. But none of that came. Instead, something colder arrived. Clearer. A certainty that settled in my chest like a stone. This wasn't new. This had been happening for a long time, and I'd been too foolish to see it. I typed my reply without trembling. Understood. I'm canceling the automatic payments for your house and car, effective immediately. I pressed send and set the phone face down on the counter. $1,200 every month. That's what I paid toward their mortgage. Ever since they'd moved into that house in the subdivision, they showed off constantly on social media. $500 more for that gray SUV. Marcus drove like it was his birthright. For years, I'd done it without thinking too much about it. Because they were my family. Because Ava was my daughter. Because that's what mothers do, right? We sustain. We carry. We give without expecting anything in return. But that night, standing alone in my kitchen, I understood something. They did expect. They expected everything. And when I stopped being useful, when my presence became inconvenient for their perfect life, they decided to erase me. I poured myself another cup of tea, even though I knew I wouldn't sleep. I sat by the window and looked out at the empty street. The streetlights created yellow circles on the wet pavement. It had rained that afternoon, and the air still smelled of damp earth. I tried to remember the last time Ava had visited me without excuses, without being in a rush, without that constant checking of her watch she always did when she was with me. I couldn't find that memory. All the recent moments were stained with something I could now name. Discomfort, obligation, forced duty. I thought of my granddaughter, Emma, 4 years old, huge brown eyes, a laugh that could fill any room. She used to run toward me every time she saw me. At least she had before, because in the last few months the visits had become scarce. There was always a reason. Emma has a fever. We have a commitment. Marcus has to work. Reasons that had sounded valid at the time. But now, under the harsh light of that text message, they showed their true face. They were lies, polite lies to keep me away without having to tell the truth. They were erasing me, little by little, removing me from their lives like someone crossing a name off a list. The phone vibrated again. It was Ava. Mom, you don't have to do that. We can talk. I read the message 3 times. We can talk. After telling me to stay away. After closing the door on me without giving me a chance to ask what I'd done wrong. Now they wanted to talk. Now that the money was at stake. Now that the consequences of their words were becoming real. I didn't respond. I left the phone face down. I wasn't going to beg for a place in my own daughter's life. If they wanted to build their perfect American dream without me, they could do it without my money too. I got up and went to the small study where I kept my important papers. I opened the drawer and took out the folder with all the documents. Bank statements, transfer receipts, years of payments. I ran my fingers over the papers. $48,000. Just in the last 3 years. Just in mortgage and car payments. Not counting gifts. Not counting emergencies. Not counting the money I'd lent that never came back. $48,000 to be erased with a text message. I sat on the floor with all those papers scattered around me, and there, in the silence of my empty apartment, I finally understood something I should have seen long ago. I wasn't their mother. I was their bank. I wasn't Emma's grandmother. I was the source of funds that maintained their lifestyle. And when a source dries up or becomes inconvenient, it's abandoned. The phone vibrated again. Another message. "Mom, please. Marcus says we can fix this." Marcus says. They weren't even her own words. He spoke for her. He decided for her. He turned her into a puppet for his own agenda. I picked up the phone and typed a single word. No. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed sitting in my armchair, watching the darkness slowly turn into gray dawn. I thought about all the moments I should have seen the signs, all the times I'd justified the unjustifiable because that's what mothers do. We forgive. We forget. We keep giving even when we receive nothing in return. But something had changed in me that night. I was no longer going to be the mother who accepts crumbs. I was no longer going to be the grandmother who waits for calls that never come. I was no longer going to pay for love that clearly didn't exist. At 7 in the morning, I opened my laptop. I logged into my banking system. I found the automatic payments. Ava and Marcus's house. Ava and Marcus's car. My finger hovered over the cancel button. Was I really going to do this? Was I really going to cut the cord that kept me tied to them, even if only financially? I pressed it. Canceled. Canceled. It was done. The following days were strangely silent. I expected more messages, more attempts to convince me, more manipulation disguised as concern. But nothing came. Just silence. As if my decision to cut the money had also cut any interest they had in maintaining contact. That told me everything I needed to know. I started remembering things I'd buried in some corner of my mind. Small things that at the time I'd justified. Things that now took on a completely different meaning. The first memory came one afternoon while I was making coffee. It was my birthday last year, 62 years old. I'd prepared a special dinner. Nothing fancy, just my favorite foods. I'd set the table for 4 people. Me, Ava, Marcus, and little Emma. Ava had promised to come. Of course, Mom, we'll be there at 7 sharp. I'd cooked all afternoon. I made that roast chicken she'd loved as a child. I made mashed potatoes. I baked a chocolate cake. I put flowers in the center of the table. Flowers I'd bought with money I should have used for my medication. 7 in the evening. They didn't arrive. 7:30. Nothing. 8 o'clock. Silence. At 8:15 I got a message. "Mom, sorry, Emma has a fever. We're not going to make it. Happy birthday." I stood staring at the set table. The food getting cold. The candles unlit. I told myself that kids get sick. That it was normal. That it wasn't personal. But 2 days later, I saw the photos on social media. Ava, Marcus, and Emma at an elegant steakhouse. Everyone smiling. Emma showing absolutely no sign of having been sick. The date stamp on the post was the night of my birthday. The same night she supposedly had a fever. They'd lied to me, and I'd known it. But I did what I always did. I swallowed it. I justified it. Maybe the post was old. Maybe she'd felt better quickly. Maybe. Another memory arrived. This one more painful. It was 6 months ago. I'd undergone minor surgery. Nothing serious, but I needed someone to pick me up from the hospital. I'd called Ava 3 days before to let her know. "Mom, of course I'll pick you up. Don't worry." On the day of the surgery, I waited 2 hours sitting in the recovery room. The nurses kept asking if someone was coming for me. I said yes, that they were on their way, that traffic was probably heavy. I called Ava. She didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. I texted her. Nothing. Finally, a nurse offered to help me call a taxi. I went home alone, dizzy from the anesthesia, scared, feeling so small and so invisible. Ava wrote to me 5 hours later. "Mom, sorry. One of Marcus's work meetings ran late and we couldn't cancel. Did you get home okay?" One of Marcus's work meetings. Not even her own meeting. His. And that had been more important than picking up her mother from the hospital. I'd replied, "Yes, I got home fine. Don't worry, don't worry. Always so understanding, always so available to forgive. I remembered last Christmas. I'd bought gifts for everyone. For Emma, I'd bought that doll she'd asked for, $200. For Ava, an expensive perfume she'd mentioned wanting, $150. For Marcus, a designer shirt, $100. I'd wrapped them in nice paper. I'd put bows on them. I'd taken them to their house 2 days before Christmas because they'd said they were going to spend the holidays with Marcus's family. But we'll see you after, Mom. We'll call you. They didn't call. I spent Christmas alone watching old movies on television. I ate leftovers from the dinner I'd prepared, hoping maybe they'd change their minds and come. On New Year's, I got a message. Happy New Year, Mom. Thanks for the gifts. Emma loved her doll. Thanks for the gifts. Not an apology for leaving me alone. Not an explanation. Just thanks for the gifts. The memories kept coming, each one a wound that had healed poorly. Mother's Day, which they'd forgotten until 3 days later. The time I'd gotten sick with the flu and they hadn't come to see me for 2 weeks. The calls I'd made that went to voicemail. The messages left on read. But the worst was social media. Because there they did post. There they did share their life. Photos of outings, restaurants, trips. A perfect life built with filters and fake smiles. And I never appeared. Not a single photograph with me. As if I didn't exist. As if Emma's grandmother was a ghost. I remembered Emma's birthday 3 months ago. They'd thrown a big party. I knew because I'd seen it posted. Balloons, a clown, a table full of food, dozens of guests. They hadn't invited me. When I'd asked Ava why she hadn't told me about it, her answer had been simple. Oh, Mom, it was something small. Just close family. Close family. I was the grandmother, but I wasn't close family. That afternoon, I'd looked at all the photos from the party they'd posted. I'd counted 18 adults. Marcus's family. Marcus's friends. Marcus's parents holding Emma, smiling for the camera. I wasn't there, and nobody had noticed my absence. Or maybe they had noticed. Maybe it was exactly what they'd wanted. A celebration without me. I wondered how many other celebrations I'd missed without knowing. How many times they'd gotten together and decided not to invite me. How many times I'd been the topic of conversation. Don't tell your mom. Let's not invite your mom. Your mom is too what? What was I that I deserved this treatment? On the 3rd day after the message, I sat down with a notebook. I started to write. Not for therapy, not to vent. I wrote a list, a detailed list of every lie, every exclusion, every broken promise, every moment they'd made me feel like a burden. The list filled 3 pages. 3 pages of evidence that my daughter had stopped being my daughter a long time ago, and I'd been too blind to see it. I spent the entire week without leaving my apartment. It wasn't depression. It was something different. It was clarity. A clarity so intense it almost hurt. I sat in front of the window every morning with my coffee, watching the world go on. People went to work. Children went to school. Life continued as always. But I had changed. Something inside me had broken. Or maybe it had been fixed. I wasn't sure yet. Ava didn't write again after that we can talk message. Marcus didn't either. The silence was deafening and revealing. It confirmed what I already knew. Without money, there was no reason to maintain contact. One afternoon, the doorbell rang. My heart gave a stupid jump. I thought maybe it was Ava, that maybe she'd come to talk for real, to explain, to apologize. It was the mailman with a package I'd ordered the previous week. Nothing more. I laughed at myself. After everything, after seeing the pattern so clearly, a part of me still hoped my daughter would appear at that door. That hope was dangerous. I knew it. But I couldn't extinguish it completely. Not yet. I started doing something I'd never done before. I reviewed my finances completely. Not just the payments to Ava and Marcus. Everything. Every expense, every income, every dollar that came in and went out of my life. The numbers left me cold. My pension was $1,300 a month. I also worked part-time at a fabric store, earning another $600. $1,900 total. Of those $1,900, I paid $800 for rent on my apartment, $200 for utilities, $300 for food for myself, $100 for transportation, $150 for medication because I had high blood pressure and thyroid problems. That left $350. But I'd been paying $1,700 between their house and car. The numbers didn't add up. How had I been doing this? Where had the missing money come from? I looked further back. I found the answer. Credit cards. 3 credit cards that I'd been filling up little by little. A debt of $18,000 that grew every month with interest I couldn't pay. I'd gone into debt to support them, to pay for their comfortable life, while I ate beans and rice most of the month, while I'd stopped buying new clothes, while I'd postponed fixing the tooth that hurt because the dentist cost too much. $18,000 of debt for a daughter who'd sent me a message telling me to stay away. I felt something break inside me, but it wasn't sadness. It was rage. A cold, calculated rage I'd never felt before. They'd used me completely, and I'd allowed it. Even worse, I'd gone into debt so they could keep using me. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to continue being a victim. I wasn't going to keep crying over crumbs of attention. I wasn't going to keep waiting for my daughter to remember she had a mother. But I wasn't going to scream either. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to beg for explanations. I was going to observe. I was going to wait. I was going to see what they did now that the money was cut off. The first 3 days, nothing happened. On the 4th day, I received a call. Not from Ava, from Marcus. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. I listened to the message. Charlotte, we need to talk. I think there was a misunderstanding. Ava is very affected by all this. Call me when you can. It's important. His voice was smooth, conciliatory, the voice of someone who knows they need something and is willing to fake whatever is necessary to get it. I didn't return the call. The next day, another call, another message. Charlotte, we really need to resolve this. We're family. We can't let pride separate us. Pride. He was blaming me for pride, as if I'd been the one who'd sent the rejection message, as if I'd been the one who'd put up the walls. I didn't return that call either. On the 3rd day, Ava called. This time, I answered. I needed to hear her voice. I needed to confirm something. Mom, tell me, Ava. Mom, why aren't you answering Marcus's calls? He's worried. I have nothing to talk about with Marcus. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing. Mom, I know things got difficult, but we can't go on like this. What is it we can't go on with, Ava? Another pause. Longer. This fight. This distance. You asked for distance. I only respected it. It wasn't literal, Mom. You didn't have to cancel everything. There it was. The real problem. Not the emotional distance. The money. Do you miss me, or do you miss the payments? Mom, that's not fair. Not fair? What part isn't fair, Ava? The part where you told me to stay away, or the part where you expected me to keep paying even though you didn't want me around? It's not like that. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Explain how I should understand it. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Marcus says, what? I don't want to know what Marcus says. I want to know what you say, with your own words, without him telling you what to think. It's not like that, Mom. You're exaggerating. You wrote that message. What? The message where you told me to stay away. You wrote it. Marcus wrote it, but I agreed. Why? Why? Yes, why? Because things were complicated. What things? Mom, I can't talk about this right now. Marcus is here. Marcus is always there. Marcus always has something to say. But you, Ava, what do you want? I want things to go back to normal. Normal was me paying for everything and you seeing me when it was convenient for you. It's not like that. When was the last time you came to see me without needing something? Silence again. When was the last time you invited me to your house? Nothing. When was the last time you let me see my granddaughter for more than 30 minutes? Mom, enough. You're right. Enough. That's why I canceled everything. You can't do this. I already did. Mom, we depend on that help. We can't pay for the house without... She stopped herself. She realized what she'd just said, but it was too late. I'd already heard it. We depend on that help. Not on me, on the help, on the money. That's what mattered to them. I understand perfectly, Ava. No, wait. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. And it's okay. Now I know exactly where we stand. Mom, please, we can fix this. It's already fixed. You have your distance. I have my money. Everything is in order. This is Marcus's fault, right? You think he manipulates me? Does he manipulate you? No. He takes care of me. He knows what's best for us. Those words hurt more than the original message. My daughter had disappeared. In her place was a woman who let her husband think for her, decide for her, keep her away from her own mother. If he knows what's best, then you don't need me. Mom, take care, Ava. I hung up before she could respond, before she could keep trying to manipulate me with guilt, before my own voice cracked. I sat holding the phone in my hand. I was trembling, but not from fear or sadness. It was from contained rage, from years of swallowing everything, from decades of putting others first. Something had changed in that call. Ava had said it clearly. We depend on that help. It wasn't that they missed me. It was that they missed my money. The next morning I went to the grocery store. I was walking down the cereal aisle when I heard someone call my name. Charlotte? Charlotte Morrison? I turned. A woman about my age was approaching me with a shopping cart. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. I'm Rachel Foster. We met at Emma's preschool orientation last year. I live 3 houses down from Ava and Marcus. Recognition clicked. Rachel, the friendly woman with short gray hair who'd made a comment about the ridiculous amount of organic snacks they expected parents to provide. Oh yes, of course. How are you, Rachel? She hesitated, glancing around as if checking if anyone could hear us. Can we talk? Maybe grab a coffee? There's something I think you should know. The seriousness in her voice made my stomach tighten. Of course. 20 minutes later, we were sitting in a corner booth at the small cafe next to the grocery store. Rachel stirred her coffee nervously, not meeting my eyes. I don't usually get involved in other people's business, she started. But I've been worried. About Ava and Emma. What do you mean? Rachel took a breath. Charlotte, I don't know what your relationship is like with your daughter right now, but I've noticed some things and I thought, well, a mother should know. My heart was pounding. What things? Marcus, there's something off about him. My husband thinks I'm paranoid, but I've lived long enough to trust my instincts. He's always so charming, so perfect. Too perfect. Like he's performing instead of just being. I nodded slowly. Go on. I've noticed Ava has changed. She used to be so vibrant, so independent. Now she seems diminished. She always checks with him before making any decision. Even small ones, like whether to let Emma play outside. This confirmed what I'd been seeing, but hearing it from an outsider made it more real. And there's more, Rachel continued. 2 nights ago, I couldn't sleep. I got up around 3 in the morning and I saw Marcus loading things into his car. Boxes, suitcases, electronics. At 3 in the morning, Charlotte. Maybe he was just organizing the garage. That's what I thought at first. But then yesterday, I was on Facebook Marketplace looking for a bookshelf, and I saw several items that looked exactly like things from their house. Different seller names, but the photos were taken in rooms I recognized. She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots. A television that I knew was from Ava's living room, listed for $800. A camera I'd given Ava 2 years ago for her birthday, listed for $650. He's selling their things, I said slowly. Not just things. Emma's toys, Ava's jewelry, even furniture. And he's doing it in the middle of the night, which means Ava probably doesn't know. I felt cold all over. Why are you telling me this? Rachel reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Because my sister went through something similar. Her husband was charming too, perfect on the outside, until one day he disappeared, took everything he could sell, drained their accounts, and vanished. Left my sister with 2 kids and a mountain of debt. You think Marcus is planning to leave? I think Marcus is planning something, and I don't think it's good. I've seen him looking at his phone with this expression. I can't explain it. It's calculating, cold, like he's waiting for the right moment. I sat back, my mind racing. The text message, the sudden need for space, the calls about money, and now this. There's one more thing, Rachel said quietly. I have a friend who works at the bank downtown. She's not supposed to share customer information, but she mentioned that someone had been in asking about international wire transfers. Large amounts. She didn't say names, but Charlotte, how many people on our street would be making international wire transfers? Did your friend say which country? South America somewhere. I didn't push for details. I pulled out my phone. Rachel, can you send me those marketplace screenshots? And if you see anything else suspicious, will you let me know? Of course, she hesitated. There's something else. Emma has been asking about you. She asked me last week if I knew where her grandma went. She said she misses you. That hit me harder than anything else. My sweet Emma, wondering where I'd gone, not knowing that her parents had pushed me away. Thank you for telling me all this, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Rachel squeezed my hand again. Whatever's going on, Charlotte, I think you need to be careful. And if Ava needs help, she's going to need her mother, even if she doesn't realize it yet. After Rachel left, I sat in that cafe for another hour, staring at the screenshots on my phone. Marcus was selling their possessions, making plans for international transfers, all while keeping Ava in the dark. I thought about that phone call. We depend on that help. He wasn't just using my money to maintain their lifestyle. He was using it for something else, something bigger. And when he was done, he was going to leave. Leave Ava, leave Emma, leave them with nothing, unless I stopped him first. I pulled up a number on my phone. One Rachel had mentioned her sister had used. A number for a private investigator who specialized in financial crimes and fraud. My finger hovered over the call button. If I did this, there was no going back. I'd be actively investigating my son-in-law. Some would say I was being paranoid, vindictive, that I couldn't accept my daughter had chosen him over me. But I thought about Emma asking where her grandma went. I thought about Ava's voice on the phone, hollow and controlled. I thought about Marcus's too perfect smile. I pressed call. The phone rang 3 times before a gruff voice answered. Williams Investigations, Frank speaking. Hello, my name is Charlotte Morrison. Rachel Foster gave me your number. She said you helped her sister. There was a pause, then the voice softened slightly. Yes. Linda, how is Rachel doing? She's well. She's concerned about a situation in her neighborhood. My situation, actually. Tell me about it. I took a breath and told him everything. The text message, the years of payments, the sudden need for distance, Rachel's observations about Marcus selling their belongings in the middle of the night, the international wire transfers. Frank listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Miss it. Morrison, how soon can you come to my office? Today? How about in an hour? I'm downtown, corner of 5th and Main, 2nd floor above the coffee shop. I'll be there. Frank Williams's office was exactly what you'd expect from a private investigator. Small, cluttered with filing cabinets, and smelling faintly of coffee and old paper. Frank himself was in his late 50s, with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. He gestured to a worn leather chair across from his desk. Sit, please. Can I get you some coffee? No, thank you. He sat down and pulled out a yellow legal pad. Let's start from the beginning. Your son-in-law, Marcus Reed. How long has he been married to your daughter? 7 years. They met at a hospital fundraiser. Ava's a nurse. Marcus said he worked in tech consulting. Said? I caught his emphasis. You don't believe him? In my experience, Mrs. T, Morrison Tech Consulting is often code for I don't want to explain what I actually do. Did he ever give you specifics? Company names? Clients? I thought back. No. He always said he couldn't discuss details because of NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. Frank nodded, writing something down. Classic deflection. What about his family? Did you meet them? He said his parents lived in Arizona, that they were estranged, something about a family business that went wrong. He said it was too painful to talk about. And you never met them? No. At the wedding, he said they couldn't travel. Health issues. Friends? People who knew him before he met your daughter? I realized with a sinking feeling that I couldn't think of anyone. No. He said he'd moved to the area for work and was still building his network. Frank leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against the notepad. Mrs. Morrison, everything you've just told me raises red flags. Vague career, no family, no history. These are classic isolation tactics. He's created a situation where your daughter has no way to verify anything about his past. Are you saying he's lying about who he is? I'm saying it's worth investigating. Now tell me about the money. You said you've been paying for their house and car? I explained the automatic payments, the $48,000 over 3 years, my own debt accumulating because I couldn't afford to support them and myself. Frank's expression grew darker. And they never offered to pay you back? Never even acknowledged it as a loan? Marcus always said they were in between or the business was at a critical phase. There was always a reason why they couldn't contribute. But they could afford designer clothes, nice restaurants. I'm assuming they didn't live poorly. I thought of Marcus's Rolex, Ava's expensive handbags I'd seen in photos, the elaborate birthday party for Emma. No, they didn't live poorly. Frank wrote more notes. Mrs. Morrison, I want to be straight with you. What you're describing sounds like a long-term financial exploitation scheme. Possibly romance fraud, though in this case the target isn't your daughter romantically. It's you, financially. Romance fraud? It's when someone builds a relationship, romantic, familial, or otherwise, for the purpose of financial gain. They isolate the victim, create dependency, and extract money until there's nothing left to take. Then they disappear. The room felt suddenly cold. You think Marcus is going to leave? I think Marcus has been planning to leave for a while. The selling of possessions? The international wire transfers? Those are exit strategies. He's converting assets to cash and moving money where it can't be easily traced or recovered. What about Ava? What about Emma? Frank's expression softened. In these cases, the spouse is usually left behind, with debt, destroyed credit, sometimes even legal troubles if the perpetrator committed fraud in their name. It's devastating. I felt tears prick my eyes. How long do I have? Before he disappears? Based on what you've told me, I'd estimate weeks, maybe days. Once he's liquidated enough assets and transferred enough money, he'll create some excuse, a work emergency, a family crisis, and he'll be gone. What can I do? Frank leaned forward. First, I need to investigate who Marcus Reed really is. Verify his identity, check for criminal history, see if he's done this before. That'll take me a few days. Second, we need to document everything. The money you've sent, the dates, any communications with him about finances. Third, we need to be strategic. If Marcus suspects we're onto him, he'll accelerate his timeline and disappear before we can stop him. So I can't tell Ava? Not yet. I know that's hard, but if you tell her now, she'll tell Marcus. He'll deny everything, make you look like the villain, and vanish before we can build a case. We need evidence. Solid, undeniable evidence that even your daughter can't ignore. I nodded slowly, wiping my eyes. What do you need from me? Every piece of paper you have. Bank statements, transfer receipts, emails, text messages, anything that documents your financial relationship with them. Also, write down everything you remember. Every conversation, every request for money, every promise made and broken. Details matter. How much is this going to cost? I asked, thinking of my maxed out credit cards. Frank smiled slightly. Let's worry about that later. Right now we're racing against the clock. Besides, if we can prove fraud, there may be ways to recover some of your money through legal channels." I stood up, feeling lighter than I had in days. I had an ally now, someone who believed me, someone who could help. "Mrs. Morrison," Frank said as I reached the door, "one more thing. Be careful. If Marcus is what I think he is, he's a professional. He's done this before. He's good at reading people, at manipulation. Don't underestimate him." "I won't. And don't lose hope. Your daughter is lucky to have a mother who's willing to fight for her, even if she doesn't see it yet." I spent the entire weekend organizing documents, every bank statement from the past 3 years, every receipt for gifts I'd bought, every text message I hadn't deleted. I spread them all out on my dining table and photographed them, creating a digital archive. The numbers were worse than I'd remembered. 48,000 in direct payments, another 12,000 in gifts, loans, and emergencies. $60,000 total. On Sunday afternoon, I wrote everything down in a notebook, every conversation I could remember, every time Marcus had mentioned needing help, every excuse for why they couldn't pay me back. As I wrote, a pattern emerged. Marcus had always been the one to bring up money, casually, almost apologetically. "Charlotte, I hate to ask, but we're having a cash flow issue this month. Could you help us out?" And I always had, because he made it sound temporary, because he made it sound like I was helping Ava, because I was a mother, and that's what mothers do. But looking at the pattern now, I could see the manipulation. The requests always came right after I'd expressed concern about seeing Ava and Emma less, as if he was dangling access to my family in exchange for money. I thought I'd been helping. I'd actually been paying for my own exclusion. On Monday morning, Frank called. "Mrs. Morrison, I need you to come to my office. There's someone I want you to meet." "Who?" "Someone who's been looking for Marcus Reed for a long time." An hour later, I was back in Frank's office. This time there was another woman there. She was about 60, with gray hair and tired eyes that held a mixture of sadness and determination. "Charlotte Morrison, this is Barbara Hayes," Frank said. Barbara stood and extended her hand. I took it, confused. "I'm sorry, have we met?" "No," Barbara said softly, "but I think your son-in-law married my daughter." I sat down slowly. "What?" Frank gestured to a folder on his desk. "Mrs. Morrison, when you gave me Marcus Reed's name, I ran a background check. The results were concerning. So I did some deeper digging. Marcus Reed exists, but he's not who he says he is." "I don't understand," Barbara spoke. 10 years ago, my daughter Linda met a man named Daniel Cross. He was charming, successful, perfect. They got married after 6 months. For 3 years, everything seemed fine, until I started noticing that Linda was pulling away from me, that Daniel was always there, always listening, always controlling. My heart was pounding. What happened? Daniel convinced Linda that I was toxic, that I was trying to control her life, that she needed to distance herself from me for her own mental health. Meanwhile, he was asking me for money, investment opportunities, business loans, emergency expenses. Over 3 years, I gave him $60,000. The number hit me like a punch, almost exactly what I'd given Marcus. And then one day, Barbara continued, her voice breaking slightly, Daniel disappeared. He emptied their bank accounts, maxed out credit cards in Linda's name, and vanished. Left my daughter with $35,000 in debt she didn't know existed. "Oh my God." Frank opened the folder and pulled out a photograph. "Mrs. Hayes, is this Daniel Cross?" Barbara looked at the photo, a picture of Marcus at Ava's wedding that I'd provided, and nodded. "That's him. Older, but that's definitely him." The room spun. "Marcus is Daniel?" "Marcus isn't his real name," Frank said. "Neither is Daniel. His real name is Kyle Brennan, and he's been doing this for at least 15 years. He spread more photos across the desk. Different names, different women, but the same face, the same smile I'd trusted. Jessica Martinez, Phoenix, 2010. He took $42,000 before disappearing. Tanya Brooks, Seattle, 2013. $38,000. Linda Hayes, Portland, 2015, $60,000. Sarah Kim, San Diego, 2018, $51,000. And now Ava Morrison, 2018 to present. I couldn't breathe. How many? That we know of? At least 9. There may be more. Kyle is very good at covering his tracks. He moves cities every few years, changes his name, creates a new identity, finds a woman with family money, usually an older parent or relative, marries her, isolates her, extracts money from the family, and then vanishes. Why hasn't he been arrested? Because technically what he does isn't always illegal, Frank explained. He doesn't forge documents. He doesn't use force. He convinces people to give him money willingly, as loans or investments or help. Without contracts, without witnesses, it's just his word against theirs. And by the time victims realize what's happened, he's long gone. Barbara leaned forward. But this time we have a chance to stop him. Frank has been investigating Kyle for 8 months. We've been building a case, connecting the victims, gathering evidence. With your testimony and documentation, Charlotte, we finally have enough to go to the police. The police? We found evidence of identity theft, Frank said. Kyle has been opening credit cards in your daughter's name, forging her signature. That's a crime. We can prove it. He pulled out more documents. Bank statements showing cards I'd never heard of. Applications with Ava's information but handwriting that didn't match hers. He's stolen her identity, I whispered, and racked up $45,000 in debt under her name. Add that to the money he's taken from you, and we're looking at over $100,000 in total fraud. I put my head in my hands. My daughter, my sweet Ava, drowning in debt she didn't even know existed. There's more, Frank said gently. Kyle has also remortgaged your daughter's house without her knowledge. He forged her signature on the documents. He took out $70,000. That money is gone, Mrs. Morrison, likely already transferred offshore. How is that possible? How could he do that without her knowing? Kyle is a professional. He knows how to intercept mail, how to forge documents, how to manipulate situations so his wife doesn't see the truth until it's too late. He's done this before and he's refined his technique. Barbara's voice was soft but urgent. Charlotte, my daughter almost didn't survive this. The financial devastation was bad enough, but the emotional damage, she blamed herself. She fell into a deep depression. It took 5 years of therapy for her to even begin to recover. I won't let that happen to Ava, I said fiercely. Then we need to move fast, Frank said. Based on the information from your neighbor about him selling possessions, I estimate we have 2 weeks at most before he disappears, maybe less. What do I do? Frank and Barbara exchanged glances. Frank spoke. You need to reconnect with Ava. Pretend you've had a change of heart, that you've decided to resume the payments, but you need to be convincing. Kyle can't suspect we're on to him. You want me to lie to my daughter? We want you to buy time, Barbara said. Time for Frank to gather the final pieces of evidence. Time for us to coordinate with the police. Time to build a case strong enough that Kyle can't talk his way out of it. And what happens when we have enough evidence? We have him arrested, Frank said, in front of your daughter, with police, with documentation, with everything she needs to see that we're not lying, that her husband isn't who he says he is. She'll hate me. Initially, yes, Barbara said. Linda hated me, too. She thought I'd orchestrated the whole thing out of jealousy, that I'd manufactured evidence because I couldn't accept her choice. But eventually, when the shock wore off and she saw the truth, she understood. She thanked me for saving her life. How long did that take? Barbara's smile was sad. 2 years, but we have a relationship now. A real one, built on honesty. It was worth the wait. 2 years. Could I endure Ava hating me for 2 years? But what was the alternative? Let Kyle destroy her life and disappear into the night? What do you need me to do? That evening I sat on my couch with my phone in my hand for 45 minutes before I called Ava. She answered on the 3rd ring. Mom? Hi, sweetheart. There was a long pause. I didn't think you'd call. I've been thinking about what you said. About talking. Really? Her voice filled with hope, and it broke my heart because I knew I was about to manipulate that hope. I don't want to lose you, Ava. You're my daughter. Emma is my granddaughter. Maybe I did overreact. Mom, I'm so glad to hear you say that. Marcus said you'd come around. He said you just needed time to process. Of course he did. Can we get together? Maybe this Saturday? I could make dinner. Your favorite pot roast. Let me check with Marcus about our schedule. There was a pause, muffled conversation. He says yes. He actually suggested it. He wants to clear the air. I bet he does. That sounds perfect. 6 o'clock? We'll be there. Mom, thank you. I've missed you so much. I've missed you too, baby. After I hung up, I immediately called Frank. It's done. They're coming Saturday. Good. Now here's what you need to do. The next 4 days were the longest of my life. I went to work at the fabric store, smiled at customers, cut yards of cotton and silk. But my mind was elsewhere, running through scenarios, preparing for Saturday. Frank gave me a recording device. Tiny, nearly invisible, hidden in a decorative bowl I'd place on the dining table. Everything said during dinner would be recorded. He also gave me a document to have Marcus sign. A simple receipt acknowledging the money I'd given them over the years. For tax purposes, I was to say. Frank had worded it carefully. If Marcus signed it, it would be admission of receiving the funds, which would help prove fraud later. On Thursday, Rachel called. Charlotte, you need to know something. Last night, Marcus was moving things again, more boxes, more items. I checked online this morning. He's listed even more things for sale, including Emma's bed. Her bed? The whole bedroom set. He's clearing out the house, Charlotte. Whatever he's planning, it's happening soon. I called Frank immediately. We need to move faster. He's escalating. I'm coordinating with Detective Santos at the police department. She's fast-tracking the warrant based on the identity theft evidence. We should have it by Friday. Should have it? Charlotte, I'm doing everything I can, but the legal system moves slowly. We need 1 more day. 1 more day. Would Marcus wait 1 more day? Friday morning, I woke at 5 a.m., unable to sleep. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, watching the sun rise. My phone rang at 7. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Morrison? This is Detective Maria Santos. Frank Williams has briefed me on your situation. I want you to know we're taking this very seriously. Thank you. I have reviewed the evidence Mr. Williams has gathered. The identity theft charges alone are enough for an arrest warrant, which I've obtained as of this morning, but I need your help with something. Anything. I need the dinner tomorrow to happen. I need Kyle, Marcus, as your daughter knows him, to feel comfortable, to think he's gotten away with it. Because when we execute the warrant, I want him at your daughter's home. I want her to see the arrest. I want her to hear the charges. It's the only way she'll believe the truth. You want me to act normal while I know he's about to be arrested? I know it's asking a lot, but Mrs. Morrison, your daughter needs to see this. If we arrest him somewhere else, if she's not there to hear the evidence, he'll convince her it's a mistake, that you orchestrated it out of spite. We've seen it before. The spouse defends the perpetrator because they can't face the reality of who they married. I thought of Barbara's words. Linda had defended Daniel even after he'd disappeared with all their money. The mind protects itself from truths too painful to accept. Okay, I'll do it. One more thing. After dinner, can you arrange to visit their home? Maybe Saturday morning? Say you want to see Emma. Bring her a gift. Something that gets you to their house around 9 a.m. 9 a.m. is when you're executing the warrant? Exactly. We want you there. Your daughter will need you in the immediate aftermath, even if she doesn't realize it yet. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet of my kitchen and cried. For my daughter, for my granddaughter, for the family we'd been, and the family we might become if we survived this. Saturday arrived with cruel normalcy. The sun shone, birds sang. The world went on, unconcerned that my life was about to explode. I spent the morning cooking, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, fresh bread, apple pie, all of Ava's favorites. If this was going to be a performance, I was going to make it believable. At 5:30, I set the table. 3 places for adults, 1 smaller one for Emma. I placed the recording device in the decorative bowl filled with fruit at the center of the table, exactly as Frank had instructed. At 5:55, I took a breath and looked at myself in the mirror. I was wearing a nice blouse and slacks, modest jewelry, the picture of a grandmother eager to reconcile with her family. "You can do this," I whispered to my reflection. For Ava, for Emma. At exactly 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Emma standing there, holding a bouquet of grocery store flowers. "Grandma!" She launched herself at me, and I caught her, breathing in her little girl scent of strawberry shampoo and sunshine. "Hello, my beautiful girl. I missed you so much." "I missed you too. Daddy said you were too busy to see us, but now you're not busy anymore," Daddy said. Of course he did. Ava stepped forward, looking uncertain. "Hi, Mom." I hugged her with one arm, Emma still in the other. Ava felt thinner, frailer. "Hi, sweetheart." Marcus came last, carrying a bottle of wine. His smile was perfect. Practiced. "Charlotte, thank you so much for having us. I'm glad we could work through the misunderstanding." Misunderstanding, as if telling me to stay away had been a simple miscommunication. Come in, dinner's almost ready." I watched them settle into my small living room. Emma immediately found the toy box I'd kept for her visits, pulling out stuffed animals she hadn't seen in months. Ava sat on the edge of the couch, her hands folded in her lap, still uncertain. Marcus surveyed the apartment with barely concealed assessment, probably cataloging anything of value. "Can I get anyone something to drink? Water? Wine?" "Wine would be great," Marcus said smoothly. "Let me help you." He followed me into the kitchen. I felt his presence behind me like a physical weight. "Charlotte, I want to apologize," he said as I poured wine. The text message was harsh. I was trying to protect Ava. She was stressed about feeling like she couldn't meet your expectations, and I thought some space might help. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Every word was carefully chosen, reasonable, sympathetic, turning their rejection into my fault for having expectations. "I understand," I said, forcing a smile. I probably was putting too much pressure on her. Not pressure exactly. Just, Ava has always wanted to make you proud. Sometimes that's a heavy burden. He was good. I had to give him that. He was rewriting history right in front of me, making me the villain in a story where I'd been the victim. "Well, let's move forward," I said. "Fresh start." "Fresh start," he agreed, clinking his wine glass against mine. We sat down for dinner. Emma chattered about preschool, about her friends, about a butterfly she'd seen. Ava picked at her food, smiling but distant. Marcus ate with apparent enjoyment, complimenting every dish. "So, Charlotte," he said after the main course, "I wanted to talk to you about the payments, the ones you canceled." There it was, the real reason for this visit. "Of course. I understand why you did it. You felt rejected, pushed away. That's valid. But the reality is, Ava and I had built our budget around that support. Canceling it suddenly put us in a difficult position. I can imagine. My business is at a critical phase right now. I'm close to landing a major contract, but I need to invest everything I have into it. Once it comes through, we'll be financially stable. We might even be able to pay you back." Might. Such a careful word. No promises, just possibilities. "What kind of contract?" I asked. Marcus smiled. "I'd love to tell you, but I'm under an NDA. Tech industry, you know, very competitive, very secretive. Of course. Always an excuse not to provide details." "Well, I've thought about it," I said carefully. "And I've decided I want to help. You're my family. That's what family does." Ava's face lit up. "Really, Mom?" "Really. But I do need something from you first." Marcus tensed slightly. "What's that?" "My accountant called. She needs documentation of the large transfers I've been making, for tax purposes. I need you to sign a simple form acknowledging what I've given you and what it was for, just for my records." I pulled out the document Frank had prepared. Simple, straightforward. A receipt acknowledging $48,000 received over 3 years for mortgage and car payments. Marcus read it carefully. Too carefully. I could see his mind working, calculating risks. "This is just for your accountant?" he asked. "Just for my files. The IRS gets suspicious of large transfers without documentation." He looked at Ava. She nodded encouragingly. "It's fine, honey. Sign it. Mom's just covering her bases." He took the pen. For a moment I thought he'd refuse. Then he signed Marcus Reed at the bottom in neat, careful handwriting. I took the document back, trying not to let my hands shake. Evidence. Legal. Signed evidence. "Thank you," I said. "Now let me get dessert." After pie, Emma fell asleep on the couch, her head in Ava's lap. Marcus had relaxed, confident now that he'd secured what he came for, my promise to resume payments. "So," he said, swirling his wine, "when were you thinking of reinstating the support?" "I was thinking next week. I just need to go to the bank and set everything back up." "Monday?" So eager. "I have to work Monday, but I can go Tuesday." "That would be perfect." He stood, stretching. "We should probably get this little one home to bed." As they gathered their things, I said, "Actually, I was hoping I could come by tomorrow morning. Bring Emma a gift. I saw this adorable stuffed animal at the store, and I know she'll love it." Ava brightened. "Of course. Come for breakfast. Around 9? 9 is perfect." I walked them to the door. Emma, half asleep, gave me a drowsy hug. "Love you, Grandma." "Love you too, baby girl." Ava hugged me. "Thank you, Mom, for understanding, for forgiving us." I held her tight, knowing that in less than 12 hours, everything would change. "Always, sweetheart. Always." Marcus shook my hand. "See you tomorrow, Charlotte. And thank you for everything." I watched them drive away, then closed the door and leaned against it. I'd done it. I'd played my part. Now it was up to Frank and Detective Santos. I retrieved the recording device from the decorative bowl and called Frank. "I have it. Everything, including his signature." "Perfect. Santos will execute the warrant at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Are you sure you want to be there?" I thought of Ava's face when the police arrived. The shock, the disbelief, the moment when her world shattered. "I need to be there. She'll need me." She might not see it that way. Not at first. I know, but I'm still her mother, and I'll be there. That night I didn't sleep at all. I sat by the window, watching the stars, thinking about the moment tomorrow when everything would change, when the man my daughter loved would be revealed as a monster, when her life would fall apart. But I also thought about after, about rebuilding, about the truth finally coming out into the light. At 8 a.m., I got dressed. I put on comfortable clothes, jeans, a soft sweater. Ava would need comfort tomorrow, even if she didn't want it from me yet. At 8:30, I got in my car. I stopped at a toy store and bought a large stuffed elephant for Emma. I needed to look like a grandmother bringing a gift, not a woman about to watch her son-in-law get arrested. At 8:50, I pulled up to Ava's house. 3 streets over, I could see unmarked police cars positioned. Waiting. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel. At 8:55, my phone buzzed. A text from Frank. "Santos is in position. This is it. Are you ready?" I typed back, "Ready?" At exactly 9 a.m., I walked up to Ava's front door and knocked. Marcus answered. He was wearing running clothes, car keys in his hand. He'd been about to leave. His face when he saw me showed confusion for just a second. I wasn't supposed to arrive for another 15 minutes. "Charlotte, you're early. We weren't expecting you until—" He didn't finish his sentence because Detective Santos appeared behind me, flanked by 2 uniformed officers. "Kyle Brennan," Santos said, her voice crisp and official. "You're under arrest for identity theft, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit grand theft." Marcus's face went white. "There's been a mistake. My name is Marcus Reed." "We have your fingerprints, Mr. Brennan. We know who you are." Ava appeared behind Marcus, Emma in her arms. What's happening? Marcus, what's going on? Ma'am, please step aside, Santos said. No, tell me what's happening, Marcus! Santos pulled out a folder. Mrs. Reed, your husband is not who he says he is. His real name is Kyle Brennan. He's a fraud investigator wanted in connection with multiple cases of identity theft and financial crimes across 5 states. That's insane, Ava said, but her voice shook. Marcus, tell them they're wrong. Marcus looked at me. In his eyes, I saw pure hatred. She did this. Your mother. She set this up because she can't accept that you chose me. Mrs. Reed, Santos continued, your husband has opened multiple credit cards in your name without your knowledge. He's accumulated $45,000 in debt under your identity. He's also remortgaged your home without your consent, removing $70,000. No, Ava whispered. That's not possible. Santos held out documents. These are credit card applications with your information, but that's not your signature, is it? Ava stared at the papers, her face draining of color. He's done this before, Santos said, to at least 9 other women. He marries them, isolates them from their families, steals their identities, takes everything he can, and disappears. Mom? Ava looked at me, her eyes pleading. Did you know about this? Before I could answer, Marcus lunged, not at the police, but at me. You destroyed everything. We were happy. She was happy until you poisoned her against me. 2 officers grabbed him, pulling him back. As they handcuffed him, he kept shouting, Ava, don't believe them. Get a lawyer. I can explain everything. Your mother is lying. They're all lying. Emma started crying, confused and scared. I moved forward to take her, but Ava pulled away from me. Don't touch her. Ava? You knew and you didn't tell me. How long have you known? 2 weeks, I said quietly. 2 weeks? Her voice rose. You've known for 2 weeks that my life was about to explode and you said nothing? If I'd told you, he would have disappeared before we could build a case, before we could stop him, before we could protect you. Protect me? She laughed, a harsh, broken sound. You just destroyed my life. Santos stepped in. Mrs. Reed, I need you to come to the station. We need to take your statement. We need to start the process of sorting out the identity theft. I want my mom to leave, Ava said. Sweetheart, get out, Ava screamed. I don't want to see you. I don't want you anywhere near me or my daughter. Emma was sobbing now. I wanted so badly to comfort her, but Ava held her like a shield. Mrs. Morrison, Santos said quietly, maybe it's best if you go. Give her some time. I looked at my daughter, at my granddaughter, at the wreckage of their lives spread out on the front lawn for all the neighbors to see. I love you, I said. Both of you. I know you don't believe that right now, but I do. And when you're ready, I'll be here. Ava turned away, carrying Emma into the house. I walked back to my car on legs that felt like they might give out. Behind me, I heard Marcus still shouting as they put him in the police car. Heard Ava's sobs through the open door. Heard Emma's frightened cries. I got in my car, drove 2 blocks, and pulled over. And then I cried. For Ava, for Emma, for the relationship I'd just destroyed to save them. Frank called 5 minutes later. How are you? She hates me. I know, but you did the right thing. It doesn't feel right. It will, eventually. But Charlotte, this isn't over. The hard part is just beginning. He was right. The arrest was just the first step. Now came the aftermath. The reality. The slow, painful process of Ava seeing the truth. And the question that kept circling in my mind, would she ever forgive me? The 3 days after Marcus's arrest were the longest of my life. I went to work at the fabric store, but I couldn't focus. I cut fabric crooked. I mixed up orders. Mrs. Henderson, my manager, finally pulled me aside on Tuesday afternoon. Charlotte, honey, what's going on? You've been here 15 years and I've never seen you like this. I broke down and told her everything. About Ava, about Marcus, about the arrest. She listened without interrupting, then pulled me into a hug. "Go home," she said. "Take the rest of the week off. Paid. Your daughter needs time, but you need to take care of yourself too." I tried to protest, but she wouldn't hear it. "Family comes first, Charlotte. Always has, always will. Now go home and rest." But rest was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ava's face. The shock, the betrayal, the hatred in her eyes when she'd screamed at me to leave. I called her phone 17 times. Every call went to voicemail. I texted her. No response. I even tried emailing her. Nothing but silence. On Wednesday evening, Rachel Foster knocked on my door. "I thought you might need this," she said, holding out a casserole dish. "I make this when things get hard. Chicken pot pie. Comfort food." I took it gratefully. "Thank you. That's very kind." I saw what happened Saturday. The whole street did. The police cars, Marcus being taken away. Ava was devastated. "She hates me." Rachel stepped inside without being invited and guided me to the couch. "She doesn't hate you. She's in shock. Her entire world just fell apart. She married a man who doesn't exist. She's drowning in debt she didn't create. And right now you're the easiest person to blame because accepting the truth about Marcus is too painful." "How do you know all this?" "Because I watched my sister Linda go through exactly the same thing 10 years ago. For 6 months, she wouldn't speak to my mother. She defended Daniel, or Kyle, or whatever his real name is, even after he disappeared. She insisted there must be an explanation, that we'd made a mistake, that he loved her." When did she finally accept the truth? Rachel's smile was sad. When the bills started coming, when the collection agencies called, when she couldn't pay her rent and had to move back home. Reality has a way of cutting through denial. That's what I'm afraid of, that Ava will have to hit rock bottom before she sees the truth. She will hit rock bottom, Charlotte, but when she does, you need to be there to catch her, even if she doesn't want you to be. After Rachel left, I ate some of the pot pie. It was delicious, and sat by the window watching the sunset. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mrs. Morrison, it's Detective Santos. Do you have a few minutes?" "Of course." "I wanted to update you on the case. Kyle Brennan was arraigned Monday. He pleaded not guilty, naturally. His lawyer is trying to paint this as a misunderstanding, that the credit cards were authorized by your daughter, that the mortgage was a joint decision. But Ava didn't authorize anything. We know that. The handwriting analysis proves the signatures were forged, but his lawyer is good, and Kyle is a professional liar. He's very convincing." "What about Ava? How is she?" There was a pause. "Mrs. Morrison, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but your daughter is not doing well. She came to the station Monday to give her statement. She was in complete denial. She kept insisting there must be a mistake, that Kyle would never do this to her." My heart sank. She still believes in him. She wants to, because the alternative is accepting that her entire marriage was a lie. That's a hard thing to face. Has she seen the evidence? All of it? She's seen some of it. We showed her the credit card applications, the forged signatures, but she's not ready to process it yet. She needs time. Time for what? For Kyle to convince her I orchestrated everything? Actually, that's why I'm calling. Kyle is allowed phone calls from jail. He's been calling your daughter daily. And Mrs. Morrison, he's very persuasive. He's convinced her that you planted evidence, that you paid people to lie, that this is all an elaborate scheme to break them up because you disapprove of him. That's insane. I know, but grief and shock make people vulnerable, and Kyle knows exactly how to manipulate that vulnerability. I closed my eyes, feeling defeated. So what do? We need to show her more evidence. Evidence she can't deny. I've been coordinating with Frank Williams. We've found 2 of Kyle's previous victims who are willing to testify. Women who went through exactly what your daughter is going through. Would you be willing to meet with them? Of course, anything. Good. Come to Frank's office tomorrow at 10 a.m. And Mrs. Morrison? Don't give up on your daughter. She'll come around. They always do. Thursday morning, I arrived at Frank's office at 9:45. He was waiting with two other women I'd never seen before. Charlotte Morrison, this is Jessica Martinez and Tanya Brooks, two of Kyle's previous victims. Jessica was in her late 30s with dark hair and intelligent brown eyes. Tanya was younger, maybe early 30s, with blonde hair and a nervous energy. "Thank you for meeting with me," I said. "We wanted to help," Jessica said. "When Frank told us Kyle had found another family to victimize, we knew we had to do something. We can't let him get away with it again." We sat down around Frank's conference table. He spread out a timeline, showing Kyle's movements over the past 15 years. "Kyle, or whatever he's calling himself now, has been doing this since at least 2008, Frank said. "Probably longer, but that's as far back as we can trace with certainty." He pointed to the first entry on the timeline. Victoria Brennan, Kyle's mother, 2008. He convinced her to take out a second mortgage on her house to invest in his business. $120,000. The business never existed. Victoria lost her home and now lives in a nursing home with dementia. "He did this to his own mother?" I whispered. "That's when we knew we were dealing with a sociopath," Frank said. "Someone with no empathy, no attachment, no conscience. His own mother became homeless because of him, and he felt nothing." Jessica spoke next. "I met Kyle. He called himself David Martinez then, in 2010. I was a teacher in Phoenix. He was charming, successful, everything I thought I wanted. We got married after 4 months. 4 months? He moved fast. He always does. The faster the marriage, the less time there is for people to ask questions. Within 6 months, he'd isolated me from my family, convinced me they were toxic, that they didn't want me to be happy. He was so good at it that I believed him." "How long were you married?" 3 years. In that time, he convinced my parents to invest $42,000 in his businesses, all of which were fake. When I finally started asking questions, when I started noticing the lies didn't add up, he disappeared, cleaned out our bank account, maxed out credit cards in my name, and vanished in the middle of the night. Tanya continued. "I met him in Seattle in 2013. He called himself Robert Taylor. Same pattern. Fast courtship, quick marriage, isolation from family. He took $38,000 from my grandmother before disappearing. My grandmother died 2 years later, still believing Robert was a good man who'd been forced to leave for business reasons. She never knew the truth." "I'm so sorry," I said. "Don't be sorry," Tanya said. "Be angry. That's what I am. I'm angry that he's still doing this, that he's destroyed so many lives and faced no consequences." Frank pulled out another folder. "We've identified at least 9 confirmed victims, but we believe there are more. Women who were too ashamed to report what happened. Families who wrote off the losses rather than face the humiliation. Why hasn't he been caught before now?" "Because Kyle is smart," Frank said. "He never stays in one place long enough to establish a pattern. He changes his name, his appearance slightly, his story. He targets families with older relatives who have money, mothers, aunts, grandmothers. He knows these women are often more trusting, more willing to help family." Jessica leaned forward. "But this time is different. This time we have multiple victims willing to testify. We have documentation going back 15 years. We have proof of forgery, identity theft, and fraud. This time we can stop him." "What do you need from me?" "We need your daughter to see the truth," Tanya said. "To understand that she's not alone, that this wasn't her fault, that Kyle is a predator who's done this to many women. She won't even talk to me." "She doesn't have to talk," Jessica said. "She just has to listen. Detective Santos is arranging a meeting, all of Kyle's victims in one room, sharing their stories, showing Ava that everything Kyle told her, the isolation, the financial manipulation, the lies, all of it happened to us, too." "When?" "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. at the police station. Santos is requiring your daughter to attend as part of the investigation. She has to hear the evidence. What if she still doesn't believe?" Jessica's smile was grim. "Then she'll learn the hard way. But Charlotte, you need to prepare yourself. Even when Ava accepts the truth about Kyle, she's still going to be angry at you. Because you knew. You kept it from her. You took away her choice, even though you did it to protect her. How long will she be angry? I was angry at my mother for 2 years, Jessica said. It took that long for me to understand she'd saved my life. But eventually I got there. Your daughter will too. That evening I tried calling Ava one more time. This time she answered. What do you want? Her voice was cold, hostile. I just wanted to check on you. And Emma. We're fine. No thanks to you. Ava, please listen. No, you listen. Marcus called me. He told me everything. He told me how you've been trying to break us up for years, how you paid people to lie about him, how you manufactured evidence because you couldn't accept that I chose him over you. Sweetheart, that's not true. Marcus is lying. Don't call him that. His name is Marcus, and he loves me. He loves Emma. He would never do what you're accusing him of. Ava, tomorrow at 2 p.m., Detective Santos wants you to come to the police station. There are other women you paid to lie. No one is lying, Ava. Please, just come tomorrow. Listen to what they have to say. Look at the evidence. If after that you still think I'm lying, then I'll leave you alone. But please, just give it a chance. There was a long silence. I could hear her breathing, hear the internal struggle. Fine, she said finally. I'll come tomorrow, but only to prove you wrong. And then I never want to see you again. She hung up before I could respond. I sat holding the phone, tears streaming down my face. My daughter thought I was a monster, thought I'd destroyed her life out of spite. But tomorrow, she would see the truth, even if she hated me for it. Friday at 1:30 p.m., I arrived at the police station. Frank was waiting for me in the lobby. How are you holding up? I've been better. Ava will be here soon. Santos set up a conference room. All the victims are already there. This is going to be hard for everyone, but especially for your daughter. I know. Oh, Charlotte, no matter what happens in there, no matter what Ava says, remember that you did the right thing. You saved her from years of financial and emotional devastation. At 1:55, Ava arrived. She was alone. She'd left Emma with a friend. She looked terrible. Circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. This wasn't the put-together daughter I knew. This was a woman falling apart. She saw me and her expression hardened. Is this really necessary? I have a lawyer now. Marcus's lawyer said I don't have to participate in this witch hunt. Detective Santos appeared. Mrs. Reed, this isn't optional. You're a victim of identity theft and fraud. We need your cooperation in building the case. I'm not a victim of anything except my mother's manipulation. Please, just come inside. Give us 1 hour. If after 1 hour you still feel that way, you're free to leave. Ava glared at me one more time, then followed Santos into the conference room. I came last, my heart pounding. The room was set up with a long table. On one side sat Jessica, Tanya, and Barbara Hayes, Linda's mother. On the other side, chairs for Ava and me. At the head of the table sat Detective Santos with multiple folders of evidence. Ava looked at the 3 women, confusion crossing her face. Who are they? These are women who were married to your husband, Santos said. Or rather to the man you know as Marcus Reed. Would you like to introduce yourselves? Jessica went first. My name is Jessica Martinez. I was married to your husband from 2010 to 2013. He called himself David Martinez then. Ava shook her head. That's impossible. Marcus has never been married before. He told me I was his first wife. Tanya spoke next. I'm Tanya Brooks. I was married to him from 2013 to 2016. He called himself Robert Taylor. This is ridiculous, Ava said. You're all lying. My mother paid you to say these things? Barbara leaned forward. My daughter Linda was married to him from 2016 to 2019. He called himself Daniel Cross. He destroyed my daughter's life, took $60,000 from me, and disappeared in the middle of the night. Linda tried to commit suicide 3 months after he left. She spent 2 weeks in a psychiatric facility. Ava's face went pale. I don't believe you. Santos pulled out a folder. These are marriage certificates. 3 different names, 3 different women, but the same man. We've verified through fingerprints that David Martinez, Robert Taylor, Daniel Cross, and Marcus Reed are all aliases for Kyle Brennan. She spread the certificates across the table. Ava stared at them, her hands trembling. This is photoshopped. This is fake. It's not fake, Jessica said gently. I know it's hard to accept. I didn't believe it either when they told me. But Ava, everything he's told you, he told us too. The childhood story about his estranged parents? He told me that. The business that required NDAs? He told Tanya that. The promises about paying everyone back once the big deal came through? He told all of us that. He probably told you he was going to start his own company, Tanya added. That he just needed a little more capital. That you were his partner in building this future. Ava's eyes widened. How do you know that? Because he said the exact same thing to me. Word for word. Santos pulled out more documents. Mrs. Reed, these are credit card applications in your name. 4 cards totaling $45,000 in debt. Do you remember applying for these cards? Ava shook her head. Look at the signatures. Is that your signature? Ava looked, then shook her head again. No, but maybe Marcus signed for me. We're married. We share everything. Did you authorize him to open credit cards in your name? I don't remember. Maybe? You would remember signing away $45,000, Santos said firmly. Mrs. Reed, your husband forged your signature. He opened these cards without your knowledge and maxed them out. He also remortgaged your house without your consent. He forged your signature on those documents, too. She pulled out the mortgage papers. Ava stared at them, tears starting to fall. Where did the money go? She whispered. We're still tracing it, but preliminary investigation shows multiple wire transfers to offshore accounts. Accounts we believe Kyle has been building for years, preparing for his eventual disappearance. No, Ava said. No, Marcus wouldn't do that. He loves me. He loves Emma. Barbara spoke, her voice thick with emotion. That's what Linda said too. She defended Daniel even after he disappeared. Even after the truth became undeniable, because accepting that he never loved her was more painful than losing everything else. I have proof he loves me, Ava said desperately. I have texts, photos, 7 years of marriage. I had that too, Jessica interrupted. 3 years of texts telling me I was his soulmate. Photos of us looking happy. A wedding where he cried when I walked down the aisle. But Ava, it was all an act. A performance. That's what sociopaths do. They mirror emotions they don't actually feel. Tanya pulled out her phone. Look, I saved some of his texts to me. Read them. She slid her phone across the table. Ava picked it up, reading. Her face went from defiant to confused to horrified. These are almost exactly the same texts Marcus sends me. That's because he uses the same script with every victim, Frank said, entering the room. He placed a thick folder on the table. This is Kyle Brennan's pattern, documented over 15 years. The same lines, the same tactics, the same progression from courtship to isolation to financial exploitation to abandonment. He's done this at least 9 times that we can prove, probably more. Ava was crying now, her hands shaking as she flipped through the evidence. Wedding photos of Kyle with different women, text messages with identical phrases, financial records showing the same pattern of debt accumulation and money transfers. Why? She finally whispered. If none of it was real, why did he do this? Money, Santos said simply. Kyle is a con artist. This is how he makes his living. He marries women with families who have money, exploits those families, then disappears and starts over somewhere else. But Emma, he was so good with Emma. He loves her. I know he does. Jessica's voice was soft but firm. I was pregnant when David left. Did you know that? 3 months pregnant. I lost the baby from the stress. And I later found out that getting me pregnant was part of his plan. It made the family more invested, more willing to give money. It created a stronger bond that was harder to break. Ava put her head in her hands and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. I started to reach for her, but Barbara caught my hand and shook her head. "Not yet," she mouthed. "Let her process." After several minutes, Ava looked up. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with tears. She looked at me for the first time since entering the room. "Did you know all of this?" Her voice was hollow. "Not at first," I said carefully. "I found out about 2 weeks ago, from Frank, from Barbara." "Why didn't you tell me immediately?" "Because if I had, Marcus would have disappeared before we could build a case, before we could stop him. You would have been left with all the debt, all the destruction, and no way to prove what he'd done. I needed you to see the evidence. I needed it to be undeniable." "So you let me keep living a lie for 2 more weeks?" "I kept him there long enough for us to catch him, long enough to stop him from doing to you what he did to Jessica, to Tanya, to Linda." "But you didn't ask me what I wanted. You didn't give me a choice." "Would you have believed me if I'd told you?" I asked quietly. Ava opened her mouth, then closed it. We both knew the answer. She wouldn't have believed. She would have thought I was lying, manipulating, trying to break them up. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm sorry I had to lie to you. I'm sorry I had to trick you. But I'm not sorry I stopped him. I'm not sorry I saved you from what happened to these other women." Ava looked at Jessica, Tanya, and Barbara. "What happened to you after he left?" Jessica answered first. "I had a nervous breakdown. I couldn't work for 6 months. I lost my job, my apartment. I moved back in with my parents at 38 years old, completely broken. It took 3 years of therapy before I could even think about dating again." Tanya added, "I developed severe anxiety and depression. I couldn't trust anyone. I couldn't sleep. I lost my grandmother, who died still believing in Robert. The guilt of that almost destroyed me." Barbara's voice shook. "My daughter Linda tried to kill herself. She spent 2 weeks in psychiatric care, then 18 months in intensive therapy. It's been 6 years, and she's still rebuilding her life, still learning to trust again, still paying off the debt Daniel left her with." "That's what I saved you from," I said. "That's why I did what I did." Ava stared at the table, tears falling silently. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm going to lose the house, aren't I?" Santos nodded. "The mortgage fraud means the bank can foreclose. You might be able to fight it in court, but it will take time and money you probably don't have." "And the credit card debt?" "We can prove it was fraud, but the process of clearing your name will take months, possibly years. In the meantime, your credit is destroyed." "And Emma? How do I explain this to Emma?" "She asks about her daddy every day." "The same way we all did," Tanya said. "One day at a time, with therapy, with support, with honesty appropriate for her age." Ava looked at me. "Do you hate me? For choosing him? For pushing you away?" "Oh, sweetheart, no. Never. I could never hate you. I said terrible things to you. I blamed you. I told you I never wanted to see you again. You were in shock. You were hurt. You needed someone to blame, and I was there. But you were trying to save me. I was trying to save you, even if it meant you'd hate me forever." Ava broke down completely then, and this time when I reached for her, she didn't pull away. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing like she had as a child. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." "Shh, it's okay. I've got you. I've got you." We stayed like that for a long time, Ava crying in my arms while the other women watched with understanding. They'd been here. They knew this pain. Finally, Ava pulled back. "What do I do now? I have no money, no house, a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm—" She stopped. "You're what?" Santos asked. Ava's hand went to her stomach. "I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. I found out 3 days before Marcus was arrested." The room went silent. "Oh, honey," Barbara whispered. "He knew," Ava said bitterly. "I told him the night before you came to dinner, Mom. He knew I was pregnant and he was still planning to leave. Jessica reached across the table and took Ava's hand. That's what they do. They don't care. They can't care. Pregnancy is just another tool to them. What am I going to do? Ava asked helplessly. How am I going to support 2 children on a nurse's salary with destroyed credit and no home? I squeezed her shoulder. You're going to move in with me. You and Emma. We're going to figure this out together. Mom, your apartment is tiny. Then we'll make it work. Emma can have the study. You and I can share my room. It'll be tight, but we'll manage. We're family. That's what family does. Ava looked at me, fresh tears falling. After everything I said to you? After how I treated you? You're my daughter. I would live in a cardboard box if it meant keeping you and Emma safe. Santos cleared her throat. Mrs. Reed, there's one more thing you should know. We've recovered some of the money Kyle transferred. Not all of it, but we found an account with $43,000. It'll be distributed among all the victims, but your share will be about $12,000. $12,000, Ava repeated numbly. It's not everything you lost, but it's something. Enough for a security deposit on a new apartment eventually. Enough to start rebuilding. Jessica stood up. I know this is overwhelming, but Ava, you're going to survive this. We all did. It's going to be hard, but you're stronger than you think. Tanya nodded. And you have something we didn't have. You have a mother who loves you enough to risk your hatred to save you. Hold on to that. Barbara came around the table and hugged Ava. You're going to be okay. It doesn't feel like it now, but you will be. And when you are, maybe you'll help the next woman who goes through this. We left the police station together, Ava and me. She was quiet, processing everything she'd learned. In the parking lot, she stopped. Mom, I need to tell you something. What, sweetheart? For the past 3 years, I knew something was wrong. I felt it. The way Marcus always had to know where I was, who I was talking to. The way he made me feel guilty for wanting to spend time with you. The way he always had an excuse when I asked about money. I knew. But admitting I knew meant admitting I'd made a terrible mistake, and I was too proud for that. Oh, Ava, I chose him over you, over my own mother. And for what? A lie, a con, a man who never even existed. You chose love, or what you thought was love. That's not something to be ashamed of. I'm 35 years old. I have a 4-year-old daughter, another baby on the way, no house, no money, and I have to move back in with my mother. I'm a cliché. You're a survivor. There's a difference. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. How did you pay for everything? The mortgage, the car, the gifts, on your salary and pension? I went into debt, I admitted. $18,000 on credit cards. Oh my God, Mom. I thought I was helping you. I didn't realize I was funding his exit strategy. How are you going to pay that back? I'll figure it out. Maybe pick up more hours at the store. Maybe get a second part-time job. At 62? I'm stronger than I look. Ava started crying again. I destroyed your life too, not just mine. You didn't destroy anything. Marcus did. And we're going to rebuild. Both of us. Together. She hugged me tight. I love you, Mom. I'm so sorry I forgot that. I never forgot. Not for a single day. That evening, I helped Ava pack up her house. Well, the house that would soon belong to the bank. We sorted through 7 years of marriage, deciding what to keep and what to let go. Emma was there, confused but trying to be helpful. Mommy, why are we putting things in boxes? We're going to live with Grandma for a while, Ava explained. Forever? For now. Is that okay? Emma's face lit up. I get to see Grandma every day? Every single day. Yay! She ran to me and hugged my legs. I missed you, Grandma. Daddy said you were too busy for us, but I knew you weren't really too busy. I picked her up. I'm never too busy for you, Emma. Never again. As we packed, Rachel Foster came over with boxes and tape. Then other neighbors appeared. People who'd seen the police cars, who'd heard whispers about what had happened. Mrs. Chen from next door brought food. For strength, she said. Moving is hard work. The Johnsons brought their truck. For hauling, Mr. Johnson explained. No family should face this alone. By the time the sun set, half the neighborhood was helping. People who barely knew Ava were carrying boxes, wrapping dishes, offering support. I thought everyone would judge me, Ava said quietly, for being stupid enough to fall for him. You weren't stupid, Rachel said firmly. You were human, and this neighborhood knows the difference. As we loaded the last box into the truck, Ava stood in the empty house, looking around at the space that had been her home. I thought I'd raise my children here, she said. I thought I'd grow old here. You'll have another house someday, I told her. A better house. One built on truth instead of lies. She took my hand. Promise? Promise. That night, back at my apartment, now our apartment, we set up makeshift sleeping arrangements. Emma got the study with her bed and toys. Ava took the couch, insisting I keep my bed. Mom, you need to sleep properly. You're working tomorrow. Actually, Mrs. Henderson gave me the week off, so we can get you settled. You don't have to do that. I want to. Besides, we need to start sorting out the financial mess. Figure out which debts are yours and which are Marcus's fraud. Emma called from her new room. Grandma! Mommy! Come see! We went to find her arranging her stuffed animals on the bed. Look, they're all sleeping together like a family. That's beautiful, sweetie, Ava said. We're sleeping together like a family, too, Emma announced happily. All in Grandma's house. After Emma fell asleep, Ava and I sat at the small kitchen table with tea. Frank Williams called while we were packing, Ava said. Marcus's trial is scheduled for 3 months from now. I have to testify. We'll get through it. He also said Marcus is still calling me from jail, leaving messages, saying he loves me, that this is all a misunderstanding, that I just need to believe in him. Are you tempted to believe him? Ava thought for a long moment. Part of me is. The part that wants the last 7 years to mean something. The part that doesn't want to accept I was fooled so completely. But then I think about Emma, about the baby I'm carrying, about the life I want for them. And I know I can't go back to the lie, even if the truth is harder. That's wisdom, sweetheart. Hard-earned wisdom. I saw a therapist today, Dr. Sarah Chen. She specializes in helping victims of coercive control and financial abuse. I have an appointment next week. That's good. Really good. She said something that stuck with me. She said that loving someone who doesn't exist isn't a failure. It's proof that you're capable of deep love. That you're not broken, even if you feel like you are. You're not broken, Ava. You're healing. How did you stay so strong through all of this? When I was pushing you away, refusing your calls, telling you I hated you? Because I'm your mother. That means even when you hate me, I love you. Even when you push me away, I stay close. Even when you tell me to leave, I plant my feet and refuse to go. Ava reached across the table and took my hand. Thank you for not giving up on me, for saving me even when I didn't want to be saved. Always, baby, always. 2 weeks later, we were settling into a routine. Ava worked her shifts at the hospital. I picked Emma up from preschool. We ate dinner together every night. Simple meals, but made with love. The bankruptcy lawyer was helping Ava sort through the financial devastation. The credit card companies were being surprisingly understanding once they saw the fraud documentation. The mortgage situation was messier, but the lawyer thought she could work out a deal. Detective Santos called with updates. Marcus, Kyle, was being held without bail. Too much flight risk. The trial preparation was going well. Multiple victims would testify. The evidence was overwhelming. One evening, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Barbara Hayes standing there. I hope I'm not intruding, she said. I wanted to check on Ava and on you. Come in, please. Barbara came in carrying a basket. I made some things, cookies, bread, soup. When Linda was going through this, people brought food. It helped. Not just the food, but knowing people cared. Ava came out from putting Emma to bed. "Mrs. Hayes, thank you for coming. Call me Barbara, please, and I wanted to give you something." She pulled out a folder. "This is information about a support group for survivors of coercive control and financial abuse. Linda runs it. She started it 3 years ago to help other women going through what she went through." "Your daughter runs a support group?" "She does. She turned her pain into purpose. She helps women every week, showing them they're not alone, that they can survive this." Ava took the folder. "I'd like to meet her, if she's willing." "She'd love that. In fact, she asked me to invite you to the next meeting. It's Tuesday evening at 7. "I'll be there." After Barbara left, Ava looked at the folder for a long time. "Mom, do you think I'll ever be like Linda? Strong enough to help others?" "You're already strong enough, sweetheart. You just don't see it yet." "I don't feel strong. I feel broken. Broken things can be mended, and sometimes the mended places are the strongest parts." Tuesday evening, I drove Ava to her first support group meeting. She was nervous, fidgeting with her purse strap. What if they judge me? What if they think I was stupid? They won't. They've been where you are. The meeting was in a church basement. About a dozen women sat in a circle. Linda Hayes, Barbara's daughter, stood when we entered. She was in her early 30s with kind eyes and a warm smile. "You must be Ava. I'm Linda. Welcome. Thank you for having me. This is a safe space. Everything said here stays here. We don't judge. We don't criticize. We just support each other. Does that work for you?" Ava nodded. As the meeting started, women shared their stories. Different details, but the same themes. Isolation, manipulation, financial control, gaslighting, the slow erosion of self-worth until they didn't recognize themselves anymore. When it was Ava's turn, she spoke haltingly at first, then with growing confidence. "My name is Ava, and I was married to a man who didn't exist. For 7 years, I believed in a lie. He convinced me to push away my mother, the one person who could have helped me see the truth. When she tried to save me, I hated her for it. I called her a liar. I told her I never wanted to see her again, and she saved me anyway." She looked at me, sitting in a chair against the wall. "My mom is here tonight. She's been my strength when I had none. She's given me and my daughter a home when we had nowhere to go. She showed me what real love looks like. Not the fake, manipulative kind I thought was love, but the real kind. The kind that sacrifices. The kind that endures. The kind that never gives up." The room was silent. Then Linda started clapping. Then the others joined in. They were applauding Ava, applauding me, applauding survival and strength and the refusal to give up. After the meeting, Linda pulled Ava aside. "You're going to make it, I can tell. You have something I didn't have for a long time, a support system. Hold on to that." "How long until I feel normal again?" Linda smiled. "Define normal. If you mean how you felt before, that person is gone. But that's not a bad thing. You're going to become someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who knows her own worth. It takes time, but you'll get there." On the drive home, Ava was quiet. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "That I want to be like Linda someday, strong enough to help others, to turn this nightmare into something meaningful." "You will be?" "Promise?" "Promise." 3 months passed. Marcus's trial came and went. All 9 victims testified. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. 8 years in federal prison, with requirements to pay restitution to all victims. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Ava didn't attend the sentencing. She was 7 months pregnant by then and had decided Marcus had taken enough of her life. She wouldn't give him one more day. Instead, we spent that day preparing the nursery. We'd found a small 2-bedroom apartment nearby and were moving in next month. The $12,000 from the recovered funds had been enough for first and last month's rent, plus a security deposit. Emma was excited about being a big sister. She talked to Ava's belly every night, telling the baby about preschool, about grandma, about their new apartment. "Mommy, will the baby have a daddy?" she asked one evening. Ava and I exchanged glances. We'd been preparing for this question with Dr. Chen's guidance. The baby has us, Ava said carefully. You, me, and Grandma. We're a family. A strong family. What about my daddy? Will he come back? No, sweetie. Your daddy made some bad choices and now he has to be away for a very long time. Forever? For a long time. But we have each other. Is that okay? Emma thought about it, then nodded. That's okay. I like living with Grandma anyway. 1 year after Marcus's arrest, we were finally settling into our new life. Ava was working full-time again. Baby Charlotte, yes, she'd named her after me, was 4 months old and thriving. Emma was excelling in kindergarten. I'd paid off most of my credit card debt. Ava was slowly rebuilding her credit. The bankruptcy was finalized, giving her a fresh start. On a Saturday morning, we all went to the park. Emma played on the swings while Ava and I sat on a bench, baby Charlotte sleeping in her stroller. Mom, I've been thinking about something, Ava said. What's that? A year ago, I told you I never wanted to see you again. I said terrible things. I blamed you for destroying my life. Ava, you don't have to. Let me finish. I need to say this. You didn't destroy my life. You saved it. And more than that, you taught me what real love looks like. Not the fake, pretty kind that makes you feel good, but the hard kind, the kind that risks everything, the kind that stays even when it's easier to leave. That's just being a mother. No, it's not. Plenty of mothers would have given up, would have said, I told you so, or you made your bed, now lie in it. But you didn't. You fought for me. You refused to give up even when I gave you every reason to. She took my hand. I want to be that kind of mother. To Emma and Charlotte, the kind who never gives up, who loves even when it's hard, who fights even when it seems hopeless. You already are that kind of mother, because I learned from the best. Emma came running over. Grandma! Mommy! Push me on the swings. We went together, the 4 of us, 3 generations of women who'd survived the unthinkable and come out stronger. As I pushed Emma higher and higher, her laughter filling the air, I thought about everything we'd been through, the lies, the betrayal, the near destruction of our family, but also the rebuilding, the truth, the love that had survived it all. Higher, Grandma! Higher! Emma shouted. Hold on tight, I called back. And that's what we'd done. Through everything, we'd held on tight. To each other, to hope, to the belief that families can survive anything if they refuse to let go. That evening, after the girls were asleep, I sat by the window of my small apartment and looked out at the stars. My phone buzzed, a text from Ava in the next room. Thank you for never giving up on me. I love you, Mom. I texted back. I love you too, sweetheart. Always have. Always will. And I meant it. Through rejection and accusations, through hatred and blame, through everything. I'd loved her. I'd fought for her. And I'd won. Not because I'd destroyed Marcus, not because I'd proven I was right, but because my daughter was safe. My granddaughters were thriving, and our family, broken and mended, was stronger than ever. That was victory. That was justice. That was love.